Hi, and welcome to the inaugural episode of the Book of Law podcast. I'm Rachel Book, and I'm the Chief People Officer at CheckAlt. Patrick, over to you.
And I'm Patrick Law. I'm the Chief Operating Officer of CheckAlt. Super happy to be here and excited that we're doing this together, Rachel.
You know, Patrick and I have been working together. Has it been almost a year?
Almost a year.
And through our collaborations, we speak how many times a day? 5, maybe? We've learned...
Text, WhatsApp.
Yes.
Voice, video.
Smoke signals, everything. We've learned a lot about each other's unique approach to leadership. We challenge each other all day. And I know that my brain has stretched a ton from working with Patrick, and I've learned so much from him. And one day, I forget exactly what the conversation was, but we joked about doing a podcast, and we were like, haha, that's really funny. And then we said, hey, maybe people might be actually interested in hearing what we have to say. So this is what it will be. We're excited to share some of these conversations, some of the epiphanies we've had about leadership and culture. We promise it won't be stuffy and stodgy and boring. And I can guarantee that you'll challenge some of your assumptions and maybe look at things a little bit differently. So Patrick, tell us why you wanted to do this.
Like you said, it was started as we were just whimsically saying, based on some of the conversations we've had about our past experiences and what we're working on together here at CheckAlt, we should share it. And I don't know if we get 5 listeners or 500 or whatever it's going to be. I think this stuff is important. I had the great pleasure of working under the leadership of a CEO by the name of Richard Davis. He ran US Bank Corp. And he was really big on human connection. Year 9 of my career when I met him and started to be around him. And I spent 14 years at US Bank watching him navigate people through really complex things. And he surrounded himself with really talented people that tried their hardest, even though sometimes business doesn't let you, to care about people. So when I met you, Rachel, and for everyone listening, whoever that is, when I met Rachel, it was like going back to that, being around someone who really just cared about how people interact with the environment we're leading, even though business can be cold sometimes and hard charging. The human element is the most important element, and Rachel has that in spades. So the fact that I get to do this with her and we get to share some of this stuff, and hopefully you guys can use some of it in what you're doing every day, wherever you are. I'm going to introduce Rachel, and I just want to spend a couple minutes on her bio. She doesn't like this, and you'll be able to tell by the look on her face. We'll see what a good actress she is. I'm not going to read it word for word, but it's impressive. She spent time at Stryker, Fidelity Investments, Bloomberg LP, and AT&T. I said I wasn't going to read it all. I'm not, but there's a couple sentences in here I think are pretty important that tell you who she is. She's been recognized for her transformational leadership and innovative ideas. She drives in and around and aligning with increasing speed of innovation and ever-changing dynamics and demographics of employees and our customers. And I'm going to say this, like not the entity, the customer, like First National Bank, Rachel Book in Texas. I mean, the people inside the customers. I mean, we're serving consumers. We're serving people. There's a brand name attached to everything, but there's people, and Rachel sees that very clearly. I want to get a little bit into her educational pieces. She studied industrial organizational psychology at the graduate level at Harvard, the School of Extension Studies, and earned a bachelor's degree in psychology from Thomas Edison State University. She holds several global human resources certification and is a continuous learner and contributor of leading practices and trends. Rachel resides in northern New Jersey with her lovely family. She has been in the news. She's been on CNBC. She's been on Fox Business and on several podcasts talking about diversity and inclusion. She's a top 10 powerful woman leaders in HR. And my friend.
Thank you. Yes, that was a little awkward, but thank you for sharing. About Patrick. So before I read his bio, well, I'll tell you some fun facts about Patrick. So the first thing that you should know about Patrick is that he's a patriot through and through. You can see that in the flags behind his screen. His military service really shapes his leadership journey, and I think he'll share more about that. He is committed not only to the service of our country, but also to the people who have served and sacrificed. So Patrick has done a tremendous amount of work with the Defenders of Freedom organization, really focusing on brain health for people who have made significant sacrifices to keep us all safe. Patrick is also a pilot, so many of his analogies are aviation related, and we've learned a lot about wingspans and engines and all of that, and it's actually kind of surprising how relevant some of that is. So I'm sure you'll get to know that too through these conversations. Patrick has a really unique gift of being able to simplify very complicated things and connect the dots between them. Throughout his career, he has, I think a theme of your career, Patrick, has been taking lots of disparate organizations and systems and technology platforms and teams and bringing them all together. And so that requires a lot of cohesion in terms of the way technologies talk to each other, but also in the way that people connect with each other. So that I've found is very unique about you. Patrick makes decisions very quickly and doesn't waffle or waver, which is so refreshing to have as a partner, especially when you have to get so much done. Patrick has the ability to inspire people to accomplish what might seem impossible. Seriously, people will think like, what? How are you telling me to do that? That is not possible. And then they realize that it is. And it's through the very unique mix of push and pull, getting people to that next step, which brings them to the next step. And then all of a sudden they're like, wow, we actually did this, which is very cool to observe and to be part of. Patrick genuinely cares about people. I think we've all seen lots of leaders who go through the motions, who pretend to care, who say all the right things. And Patrick genuinely cares. He takes the time to learn about interesting nuances of people's lives, because we come to work as whole people, right? And all the things that we care about and that go on during our daily lives impact our work. Patrick engages people no matter what their position or level. He's also like the Pied Piper a little bit. So he kind of has assembled a following, and people are drawn to his leadership and his work style. Also, he really, 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 really likes chocolate desserts. Like, really likes chocolate desserts. So if you're ever looking to send him something, chocolate desserts is the way to go. You can look, I'm not going to read through his bio. Bella, our producer, will share it in the show notes so that you can read about his 26 years in payments, his robust education in banking school, his work bringing different companies together throughout very complex acquisitions and mergers. This was really an introductory episode. Hopefully what you've heard so far piques your interest and intrigues you and makes you want to listen more. What we'll do now is tee up what we plan to talk about next. Patrick and I have assembled a long list of potential topics. At some point, we might throw up some polls in the show notes, if that's possible. Technically, Bella will help us figure that out to get a sense of what you're interested in hearing about. But one topic that we thought was really foundational, a topic that is constantly discussed throughout all kinds of leadership forums and business books and all of that, is culture. Everyone loves to talk about culture. Everyone loves to pontificate about culture. I personally feel like it might be the least understood term in all of business. And I think people like to brag about it. They like to talk about changing it. They think about who fits or does not fit within their culture. But what really is it? How do you decide what your culture is? What tools and tactics do you use to measure and monitor it? So that's what we're going to talk about a little bit next week. And then, of course, we look forward to continuing the conversation with you. So we want to hear your reactions to our thoughts about culture. And we're curious to hear about nuances that we might have missed, because, again, this is all about broadening our minds and changing our perspectives. So, Patrick, what are your thoughts on what we'll talk about next time?
Initial thoughts are, you're very kind in your bio explanation of me. I was actually stunned silent when you were done. So if anyone felt the pause there, I actually didn't know what to say. You're very nice. I think you're right about culture for sure. It is a term that is often bantered around, but I think one that very few people actually take the time to digest and try to understand. I've been a part of all kinds of cultures. I've been a part of toxic cultures. I've been a part of hard charging cultures. Mm-hmm. I've been a part of really thoughtful cultures. And none of them are perfectly right and none of them are perfectly wrong. I think if you have the right people in place to navigate those differences and to highlight why each of the categories of culture, good, bad, ugly, affects the client base, affects your sales, affects your associates, affects. I think that's where time is well spent. I've been a part of a lot of researching acquisitions, looking at potential targets in the U.S. and overseas. I've had a gift of a career, It's been a blessing. Only 9 of the dozens and dozens and dozens that I've looked at or I was a part of teams looking at ever closed. Some were giant, like the First Data into Fiserv acquisition. And I did that one from afar because the company I was with was sold to Fiserv and then boom, First Data was acquired. So everybody kind of forgot that we were acquired because this giant acquisition occurred. And one thing I learned, whether it was something really large like the First Data thing that I was a part of from afar in the beginning, or real intimate acquisitions like Elan being sold to Fiserv, is if the people don't click, the deals don't happen. And I don't mean like get along and spend holidays together. I mean, is the culture one where a majority or as many boxes can be checked as possible that the associates feel engaged, valued, welcomed, and can make a difference? I think those 4 things are a huge driver. So like here at CheckAlt, what Rachel and I are working on, it's not an acquisition because I joined last June, but it's a collection of companies with really thoughtful people doing the best they can in their different environments, trying to come together. So what Rachel and I are doing are bringing human beings together to a common goal. That's a version of culture. But bringing those people together on this journey and doing this kind of work, are they bought in to the type of culture that Rachel and I are trying to build? So we're going to explore some of that. Like, some like it, some don't. And that's okay because we're all people and we all have choices and we all get to decide with what we like and what we don't. I'll close my thoughts on culture on this. And the first time I said this, it was at US Bank, and it was an eyebrow raiser. But I said to people at the bank that our associates are our customers. Everyone's always talking about the customer, and they are very important. Without customers, there's no business. I mean, every business is like that. But what I really saw at US Bank around 2013, 2014, we just came out of the housing crisis, if you ever really came out of it, but came out of the shock of it all. 08, 09, 2012 through 2015 was like a rebuilding of people's self-esteem and understanding economics and what was happening in the world from a business perspective. It was hard to hold talent, or starting to get hard to hold talent. And I said, we should treat our associates like they're our customers. Like they should fire us if, as leaders, we do a bad job. Paying customers of a business fire their vendor or partner if they don't like how it's going. We should treat associates like they're our customers, even the ones that may not deserve it every day. Like, one thing you'll get on this podcast is a lot of truth. Like, there's not going to be a lot of swimming around touchy topics. Like, we're doing this so we can get into it. Not every employee deserves a leader's best, but they deserve the leader's best attempt.
Yeah.
And if you're building a culture that everybody can feel good in, you're going to win more than you lose from a people perspective. So I'm excited this is as our first topic, because culture is much broader than pretty posters on a wall that talk about working hard. There's a lot going on when you've got humans coming together for long hours during the day, doing really complex things together. So I'm looking forward to the first episode.
Awesome. So thank you so much for joining us for this first introduction. Thank you to our producer, Bella, for making the magic happen behind the scenes. And stay tuned for our next episode. You can find us on your favorite podcast platform.
See you next time, guys.